You are listening to the 12 Hell Radio Show. I am Jordan, and with me we have a very special guest. You may know him from the band Libka. You may know him, if you're an old head like me, from Blood Has Been Shed, but he is best known as the drummer for, I think it's fair to say, one of the biggest metal bands over the past 20 years or so. From Killswitch Engage, we have Justin Foley. How's it going, Justin?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's winter has finally hit New England, so I'm trying not to freeze as it's like, 5 degrees out in the morning when I get up for work, but otherwise I'm doing okay.
Where are you at?
In Providence.
Okay, yes. I assume it's very, very cold there.
Yeah, it's New England. We've been getting lucky. I don't even lucky isn't the right word, but climate change has made the winters not so bad over the past couple of years, and
Right.
now we're polar vortexing right now, so it's a little brutal.
It's cold even down here, all the way in sunny Florida. It's Florida cold today. It's like 59 or something.
It's do people freak out when it hits like in the 50s there?
Yeah, yeah. But everyone's just not used to it. But it's I can't go. I think it got to 40 last night. And I was surprised.
Up here, it's just, people have their Dunkin' Donuts coffee and they walk around in hoodies in the 20s and it's
Yeah,
not
no one
so
cares.
bad.
It's like whatever. Shorts.
So the band has a new album coming out in just a few weeks. This Consequence coming out February 21st on Metal Blade. And it's the band's ninth full-length album. And for someone who's been a fan of the band since the very first self-titled album, has been following you guys ever since, what can like longtime fans like me expect with this new one?
I think it sounds like us. I think it would be a little bizarre if the five of us all of a sudden didn't sound like us anymore.
So it's
So
it's it's not the Jazz Odyssey version of Killswitch.
no, no, we didn't go jazz, we didn't go country, we didn't go like Latin. We're still a metal band. We still sound like we sound, but as always, we try to kind of find more little flavors to put and mix into the music. So I think that's the way it is. I think it's just another record made by us that sounds like us, but also has some surprises and some little touches that make it different. Obviously, we don't want to get bored. We don't want to do the same thing over and over again. So we kind of mix it up with some other influences that can sneak their way in that might not have snuck their way in before.
Is it, I guess, a challenge to kind of have that framework, that like standard kill switch sound, and like you have the skills and the experience, and you may want to break out, but you kind of know you have to like give the people what they want.
Well, in a way, we know what the band is, but a lot of that is that we know that that's our strength. So we definitely want to play to our strengths. We don't want to do something where it's all of our weaknesses or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, but it's also kind of like that's what we know how to do. So we're not going to suddenly do a record that we don't know how to make.
yeah, and you always run the risk of, alienating some of your longtime fans when, you maybe try to do something a little too far out of the box and maybe it doesn't work, or, in a sense it does work and that's it. The old sound's gone and this new sound is in.
That can be kind of awesome though. Bands have done that and done it successfully, but not sure if that's something we're going to approach. Probably not. That's what side projects are for, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you have a couple of those as well. And we can get to that in a little bit. The first single that came out a few weeks ago, Forever Aligned, the first thing I noticed when I first listened to it is it was like surprisingly heavy, especially in the beginning. Harken back maybe a little bit to like Vida Infra or some of the older, straight up more metal, heavier songs. And I was kind of wondering if that was sort of intentional to have such a heavy song to be kind of like the first step out of the gate for this new album.
In some ways, yes. Yeah, I think it's kind of important to pick the song that you want people to hear first for anything new. Um, we didn't want something that was really too extreme in any directions. We didn't want it to be something that was sounding a little bit more different, maybe on some of the other songs could be a little bit of a reach for the first song people heard. I'd be like, what are these guys doing? But in the
Yeah,
context of the record or in the context of having other songs that definitely um, sound like the band, kind of familiar with how the band sounds, then it makes a lot more sense. So yeah, I mean, we had a couple choices. Like I feel like that's one of the stronger ones on there. So we kind of gathered the stronger songs together, the ones that we all felt best about, and then sort of said which one would be a cool first song. And we wanted something that was kind of going to be heavy and a bit of an attention grabber. And I think that was a good choice. And probably that's my probably that's my favorite song on the new record.
it's
So
a
in
sh
one sense, it's all downhill from there for us.
you're really building up the album before it comes out for people.
Yeah, if you didn't like that one, forget it. You're not going to like the rest.
I've got nothing else for you. I'm sorry. So like kind of in keeping with that, the Forever Aligned specifically, just like Killswitch in general, has had a lot of themes like leaning heavily towards like positivity, inner strength, overcoming the odds, and you could hear it and see it in Jesse's lyrics for that song as well. And since this is the band's first album post-pandemic in about almost 6 years, is it kind of difficult to return to some of those themes with like everything that's happened in the past couple of years?
Huh, interesting. Possibly, possibly, but I think in some ways it's almost needed. You almost have to think that way even more. You have to be reminded even more to try to think that way because it's very easy to spiral into all kinds of um, bad thoughts from just what's gone on for the last several years, and that in particular. So maybe it's even kind of more needed to try to drag it out and not let people forget that, not get lost in all the trouble that so many people have faced, especially from the pandemic and everything.
So has it been cathartic, not just to like make this album, but to get back together with the guys and work on something that's forward and positive feeling?
Yes, absolutely, because none of us knew what was going to happen when everything shut down. So it was pretty scary, and there were days when you wondered. It seemed crazy to think of a concert setting. Like it just seemed like was that something that was going to happen? You know, the idea of a whole bunch of people in a room together for a while seemed just really, really out there. Um, so to yeah, to be able to get back and to do this and the last one, we're not unique in having the pandemic kind of shut down our plans. We were two shows into a headlining tour for the last record, when that all happened. It happened to so many other bands too. So to kind of get back together and to get back at it and to have the excitement of writing something new. And chances are, if there wasn't going to be another pandemic like that, I'll take my chances with that one. That there probably won't be another one that comes out. There won't be another disease that'll come out 2 months after our record comes out, I hope.
Well, the
But if
record
there
comes out in a
is,
couple of weeks, so I hope you're right.
yeah, I hope I'm right too. You can blame me if it does. It's the old announcer jinx if it happens. But
So, what was the writing process for this one like compared to previous albums? Like, I know, like Jesse's in Woodstock, everyone else is kind of in different areas. Has it been a lot of like getting in a room together or just sending ideas back and forth and piecing things together?
we all made a point to get in a room together. We had been isolated for too long anyway, so this ties back into that whole thing. We very much wanted to get in a room together and see everybody and make music together and, you know, get loud together and do all of that stuff. So that was a big part of the record and the writing sessions.
And I think
Uh,
that makes a difference. You can kind of hear it in the songs, whether it's a camaraderie or just being able to bounce ideas off each other in real time and hear how something sounds and being able to have a discussion and it's, not emails back and forth or through Zoom or something like that.
Yeah, that's I'm kind of tired of that way, really. You can still send somebody a totally finished demo and everything, but you really need to just get together and play through things to know exactly how they sound. And also just getting together and playing through stuff can give you new ideas or whatever. So I'm glad that we did it that way.
Now, I know Adam was the drummer for the band at one point. Do you ever like just have drummer talks with him or, go back and forth? That's not the way I do it. That's how I do it.
Absolutely, all the time, all the time. Um, we're both we both come up with parts. We both we talk a lot, especially when we're tracking and when we're writing and demoing. We talk a lot about the drums and why we have an idea for the way a part should sound or whatever. But we think differently also as drummers, so it's good to combine our two drumming brains together and come up with hopefully the part that works the best.
Oh, that I had never considered that it would, be a positive thing. I was thinking more of like, well, that's not how I'd hit the floor tom, do it again, but it's you're kind of making a drummer megazord together with your powers combining.
It's cool. It's good to have someone that understands the instrument and understands playing and thinks of things in a different way. So it's great. It's totally the more yeah, the more opinions that you want, the better chance you'll have of stumbling upon what is going to sound best.
And I just recently learned that you have a master's degree from the Hart School for percussion. Um, did you always want to be a drummer?
Yeah, I guess I started playing drums when I was 13, I think, 12 or 13. And by the time I went to college, I didn't know what to do really. And, like just about every 18-year-old kid. I mean, there are not a lot of people that are graduating high school that are really 100% sure what they want to do. It's your brain's still developing.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to play drums, but I didn't really think that it was going to be a real thing to do. I didn't think I was going to be able to be in a band and tour. That seemed like a crazy, a crazy idea, but I was still trying. And then once I got into college, I realized I wasn't going to stay in college if I was doing something I wasn't interested in. So music was the thing I was interested in. So I just majored in music and just kept going from there. And it was all, when you go to a normal college setting in a music major, you're not they don't offer heavy metal drumming as a section of it. So I did
No blast
all,
beats 101.
yeah, no intro to blast beats or any of that stuff, unfortunately. So I was doing all everything else, all classical music, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But the entire time playing in metal bands throughout it. So yeah, when I got out, I just had some music work that I was piecing together to make a living, and then uh, the touring eventually overtook everything, where I didn't have time for anything else at all because we were on the road all the time. And fortunately, we were able to sustain ourselves by being on the road all the time. So it just sort of very luckily worked out.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. Um, when getting your master's, did you have to like I have some friends who majored in music as well, and they had to like create their own piece, do a performance or recital. Did you have to do that for the drums?
Oh yeah, recitals, all bunch of recitals. And a lot of it is playing the mallet instruments like marimba or vibraphone. So I learned all that stuff, and um, yeah, I did all that. I loved it.
And being classically trained, do you ever try to flex some of that knowledge when putting together some of the songs, like correcting some of the other guys in the band? Like, and that's not how you syncopate. That's not how you do that.
It helps communicate. Like Adam and Joel have a pretty good knowledge of music theory, especially Adam. And Joel has a pretty good base, theoretical music theory base as well. So it kind of makes it easy to talk music with them sometimes if you have some idea or something, and it might be a little quicker if you can just say something in music speak that can get your point across a little bit better. But
I mean,
um,
I
The
think knowing
most,
that adds like an extra layer of, what Killswitch Engage is. I think maybe for some fans that aren't musicians or maybe like just listen to the songs, they don't quite understand maybe how complex things actually are.
I mean, yeah, it's something just even as simple as saying, the third harmony there, harmony in thirds will work better than a harmony in fifths or something like that. And, the guys, we all know what it means. So it's just sort of a time saver and then stumbling around and looking for the right notes or the right chords.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, and it makes for a better song. There's like a reason why "She Loves You" by the Beatles is a hit, like, because things fit and things have their own places, and as you get more complex, you can kind of do more difficult sounding things, but things that make sense in their own way.
Right. At the same time, you can't at all discount people that just have naturally hear everything and have no idea what it is musically. I mean, you definitely that's a gift too. And sometimes you can actually block yourself from a good idea because it doesn't make theoretical sense, but it could be an awesome idea. So you kind of just have to throw that out the window a lot too.
Yeah, I guess there's that balance between talent and skill and, the knowledge of how music works. There are plenty of technically impressive metal bands out there that maybe write a 12-minute song and by like 2 minutes in, you kind of forgot everything already just because it's bouncing all over the place and there's not a lot of writing or song structure.
Real good example. And since you mentioned that in your intro, Blood Has Been Shed, this is a perfect example of that. Corey, the guitar player, has kind of no real musical theory knowledge so much. And he would just write these parts that made no sense to me at all. And I couldn't find where any of the rhythm would be and where any of the beat would be. And I had no clue like what time the thing was in.
And
And
you're the
eventually I just
drummer, that's kind of
realized,
important.
I know. And eventually I just realized, oh, well, it doesn't have one. Or it's this or something. And then I was just like, okay. And then I could kind of figure out what he was going for if I just sort of lost like and John was a drummer before I was in Blood Has Been Shed. He switched to bass, and one of the reasons he switched to bass is because he couldn't stand this ideas Corey was trying to get him to do on drums. And at one time, John told him that's not how music goes because he just couldn't figure out what's going on. And when he got to bass, he could understand everything a lot better. But having to try to figure out what drums to play for these riffs Corey was writing for spirals was pretty crazy. Yeah, there are a lot of times where I was like, what is going on? Like, what is this even? I have no idea what's happening.
I'm getting flashbacks to like high school and college bands I was in as a vocalist and just going like there's no choruses. What's happening? I don't know what to do or where to go. And someone in band's like, "Oh, well, it's kind of like, Tool doesn't really have them." Like, we're not Tool. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And speaking of Blood Has Been Shed, we had Scott Lee, who puts together the New England Metal and Hardcore Fest on a few months ago before you played. And during our interview, we kind of asked him, like, what are some of your white whales, like a band you've always want to book and things you want to do together? And the discussion kind of went towards a lot of festivals now are booking bands that may have been broken up a long time, haven't come together. Like, who is someone that you'd like to work with? And he said, Blood Has Been Shed. And I
Oh
figured
yeah.
having Killswitch on, like maybe there could be some conversation happening, but he said he hadn't, heard anything about that. Is that something maybe you would be interested in doing at some point?
He found me at Metal Fest and was talking to me about it.
Oh, so it's my fault.
No. He was like, why aren't you guys what is it gonna take? What is it gonna take for Blood Has Been Shed? What is it gonna take for Blood Has Been Shed? I was like, I don't know, man. I haven't talked to Corey in a while. I know he's busy, so I have no idea. You can't ever say never. It would be fun. I would definitely have fun doing it, but man, that would take some work to get those songs ready to play.
And the
That would be a challenge.
the interest is definitely there. I mean, we could look at like Furnace Fest or other metal hardcore festivals that kind of look towards doing that sort of thing, and people travel from all around to see that. So,
Yeah,
maybe
fests are
physically
great.
playing the songs, it may take a little while, but you're not going to go out there and people are just going to like shrug and stare at you with folded arms.
I was watching my friend Luke playing Since the Flood at Metal Fest, and I was like, yeah, this is great. It's like that's one of those bands haven't been around in a while. Play it again. Everybody loved it. Went nuts. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I think for people like us, heading into our later years where 20 years ago we could see some of these amazing bands playing in VFWs or playing at the Living Room in Providence or other places. So now that we're older, we got responsibilities. We don't go to shows as much. And when there's a chance to see a band that you haven't seen in a long time, I think people really jump at it. It's like, that's the show for the year where I'm going to hop on a plane and go check it out.
Takes a lot when you get older to go down to a show, right?
And you have to stay hydrated. You have to,
Yeah.
make sure you're not out too late. You got to
I
stretch so you
gotta
don't hyperextend anything.
I gotta stand for a couple
Ah,
hours. Oh my God, my legs are gonna my back's gonna hurt.
I'm,
So many
I'm,
different thoughts.
I'm hitting the age where I'm considering just like, it's probably worth the extra $15 so I can sit down during a whole show.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's like
I'm
on,
not
on
gonna
one on one
who am I
hand it's
kidding? I'm
so
not gonna do
depressing, but on the other hand, sitting.
it. I know. I'm on team sit for that.
Like I can sit down and like someone won't punch me in the back of the head and I don't have to worry about someone spilling a beer on me. Like this isn't so bad.
Sounds great.
And kind of speaking about these old bands getting back together again, I mean, you're going on tour with Shadows Fall in a couple of months. And it's kind of like a full circle thing for me, and I think maybe for you as well, because the first time I saw Killswitch Engage was the Headbangers Ball tour with Shadows Fall, Lamb of God, Unearth. And for me, it's a show that has since been very hard to top because it was on Halloween night at the Palladium.
Oh yeah, yep.
And I think everyone in Killswitch dressed up, although I think you might not have dressed up. I looked at some old pictures from Return to the Pit, and I think you just had a fake mustache on.
I had something like a witch hat, maybe. I can't
Yeah, a couple of
remember.
guys were dressed as witches. Adam was dressed as a ghost, and Howard was dressed as like a
As a
police
cop, right?
officer.
Yeah. Adam's ghost. Yep.
I think it was just a bed sheet.
Yeah, yeah. And he was following Howard around the stage.
And
Yeah, that
so,
was a good one. That was my first tour also. So my first tour with Killswitch was that tour too. That was probably like the fourth or fifth show, maybe.
that's
It
crazy
started
that, like,
like,
in a weird way, we've kind of connected, and now we're coming back again full circle because you're heading out with Shadows Fall again. Um,
yeah, which is awesome. Really happy those guys are playing again. It's just gonna be very, very fun. Um, very fun. I mean, we've seen them all over the years, in different stuff. So it's just gonna be cool to get that vibe back together. It really is like a time machine.
yeah, and it's always much better when you can tour with old friends. I don't know how much say you have in any of that sort of thing, but is it hard to kind of find that balance of like, well, we should have new bands with us to, maybe bring out some of the newer fans, but like we also want to hang out with our old friends and maybe kind of sound like the old days?
Yeah, you want to do both, right? You always want to play for people that don't know you. You never just want to have one group of people that you play for all the time. You always want to play for new people, and you always want to play in new situations. So you want to try to take tours that might sound a little strange to take, but will get you potentially new people, and you want to take out bands that might initially not look like the best fit all the time, but they'll bring in different people, and you always want to do that. You just always want to have a varied thing. And we've tried very hard to do that over the years. And it's really fun when you get a situation like this with Shadows Fall where we have some stuff, we have a time period and they have a time period and it all works out. And it's just a really cool thing. It's so
Yeah.
hard to do that to get everything to work out like that, but we're lucky. I'm glad that worked, even if it's just kind of a short, I think maybe like a 10-day run or something, just like kind of shows putting together, linking festivals together, basically. So, well, I'll
Yeah,
take it.
yeah, no, I think people will definitely be excited to see them on the road again, see you guys together. You'll have a lot of fun. When prepping for these tours, like, does it differ at all for playing a tour versus like a festival, like a Vakken or something like that?
For how?
Like knowing
Sorry.
you're like you're playing in a club, you're doing a headlining
Yeah.
set versus you're maybe doing 35 minutes on a big stage with, 5,000 people in front of you.
Those shows are so easy because they're so short. And like when we have a set, like we have like a time, like, oh, we have a 45-minute set or something, and we put the set together. And since we've been together for so long and have so many albums out, we run out of time so quickly with our songs. We're like, we have like a group of a list of songs that we're obviously going to play.
Hmm.
Like, we're going to play My Curse, we're going to play, you know, in due time. Like, we're going to play songs no matter what, right?
Hmm.
When you have a set that's on the shorter side, like 45 minutes after all this time, it just goes away like immediately.
Yeah,
And you're out there playing and you're playing like the songs that we're most familiar with, the ones that are the easiest crowd pleasers, and those sets are gone like before you know it, you're at the end of it. You're like, okay, that was a piece of cake. It's the easiest
yeah,
thing ever.
you have to play the hits. You don't have to bust out like Irreversal or One Last Sunset or something older obscure.
Which is also super fun to do. And I love doing that, but you don't really have a lot of opportunity to do that until you get into the headliners. And even then, it's kind of better to like have couple spots in the set where you mix it up every night and play something different because you still run out of time pretty fast. So I
You,
like having that too.
you save those for guys like me who will be sitting down for 35 minutes, but they hear that one song and they start crowd surfing to the front and throwing elbows because they're playing the song.
Yeah. And we got to convince Adam that it's worth it to save it for guys like you because Adam's like, oh, that song was a well, because, one person didn't know it. It's like, okay, that's fine. But some people were like, whoa, that song, like it's worth it to do it for, I think it's worth it to do things like that for a small amount of people that would be like, oh my God, they're playing um, Reject Yourself or something, like something like that rather than going like, oh, they're going to do all the same stuff. Like it's cool to do something totally, totally different like that. And Adam is so like hyper focused on each second of the set being better than the previous second. We have to kind of pull his arm a little bit with come on, it's gonna be fine. We're gonna play the song. It's good. It's 3 minutes. It's gonna be great. We might not stoke out 90% of the people, but the 10% that are there are gonna be extra stokes. And trust me, that's worth it. He's like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, you're right, you're right.
yeah, I mean, like those are Easter eggs or like almost like a reward for longtime fans. Like, I mean, I've seen you guys probably 9 or 10 times at this point, and I know you got all the albums coming out, so there's going to be sprinklings of things here and there. But to hear something I've been listening to for 20 years that like I taped off the radio when I heard it at like midnight on a metal show, it's just this is it. This is for me.
What would that song be for us? Do you have one?
Oh,
Throw in your request. Sir.
the very first song I heard from Killswitch Engage was on the radio. Believe it or not, it was I grew up in New Jersey and listening to 94.1. It was a Philadelphia channel, and Friday nights, midnight to 2, they had a metal show called Rockers. And dating myself with this, I would take a blank cassette tape and tape the show.
Yep.
And the song I heard was Irreversal,
Okay.
and it blew my mind because this was like new metal was still going on and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
metalcore was just starting to become its own thing, and just to hear a song that was like that fast and that heavy but then like also melodic, and to like understand the vocals and have the lyrics have meaning, and then there's like that break in the middle where things get quiet and it comes back, the riff comes back but slower, like that blew my mind as I don't know a 16 or 17-year-old. So that's always been my 1A song.
And we haven't done it at any of those 9 or 10 shows because we do play that randomly, not often, but randomly we do play that sometimes.
I might have seen it once. Maybe it was like Hellfest in 2004, but it's been a while.
Possibly.
And like I've gone to the holiday shows, I've gone to some festival things here and there.
Right.
So maybe next time you come around, I know you're playing up in Connecticut at some point during this tour. Maybe I'll have to take a trip in hopes of hearing it.
It's that one's it's funny because it also like the tuning that songs are in kind of dictate it too. That one's the first record or was in D. They didn't go to drop C till the second, till Live or Just Breathing. And then, but we also have a bunch of D songs sprinkled in the records. So we have like tuning blocks, where we'll play all the D songs that we're going to do kind of in one chunk. And so that's one of the D songs that occasionally crops up, like with Temple and V-Day sometimes, and sometimes with In the Unblind, those songs occasionally pop up. But yeah, we don't do Irreversible too much, but it's there somewhere. It's in our brains somewhere. So maybe we can dust it off once we start thinking about set lists for this tour.
And I'm sure there's going to be an anniversary show at some point where it's the 25th, the 30th, whatever it is. Maybe I'll get
That was
lucky
kind
with it.
of the Metal Fest was kind of the 25th anniversary, really. Um, we that set was sort of supposed to be like the anniversary show, and we did sort of like a chronological and then reverse chronological set list kind of thing, and then had Howard do some songs. It was really fun.
I don't want to take up any more of your time. Just anything you want to get in on this, promote, gear you use, anything like that, let us know.
Yeah, sure. I've been using Yamaha and Zildjian and forever, and ProMark and Evans forever, like this entire time. I don't see any reason why I would stop using them. I love them all, and thank you so much to all those companies for generously supporting the band. And you mentioned listen to all the old Blood Has Been Shed stuff out there. You mentioned Libika too, which is the new band that I'm playing guitar in without vocals. That's pretty fun. And I'm also started doing some stuff in a project called Fixation Arc with Daryl from Cancer Conspiracy and Philip from Caspian. And uh, it's really, really cool, fun stuff. Those two guys are like absolute musical heroes of mine. Jonathan Newby from Brazil is a singer, and to be in a project like that has just been crazy. It's been crazy to be asked by people that whose music has just floored you to play in a band with them. So that's
What kind of
something
what
you
what
got to
kind of
check it
style
out
is that
too.
going to be?
It's kind of like thrashy, sort of thrashy kind of metal, I would say. But not like it's not, but it's not really thrash metal. It's like more like older style metal stuff. Um, right now, three songs are out. I think there's three songs are out. We're kind of sprinkling songs out there every now and then. So yeah, check it out. It's really fun. It's been very fun to work on. There'll be more stuff for sure, and hopefully one day. I mean, like we talked about at the very beginning about getting together in a room. I've literally never met our singer.
Isn't
It's the
that
opposite
wild?
of that. It's the total opposite of that. So we're just doing stuff completely remote and sending stuff to each other and making songs, and it's coming out great and really having a great time doing it.
Yeah, we're far removed from putting an ad in a magazine for local people to find a show. Now we're putting out albums with people we've never met before.
Nuts. It really is nuts.
Well, Justin, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. This Consequence is out February 21st on Metal Blade Records. Killswitch Engage is going on tour in a couple of weeks, and they'll be heading out in the spring with Shadows Fall. And go to the shows, and maybe they'll play a reversal, and you can think of me.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.